People, deluded, I'm back again. Fridays equals Q&A days. Let me do exactly that. With you lot have come through heavy again. You know, I think there's about 20 questions on the Twitter one alone. You've made sure you've responded well on the YouTube app. You know, you've asked me a lot of questions, especially when I tell you to ask them in the community tab. So let me not waste any more time. All I'd like to do is say thank you. It allows me to give back to you lot who gives me constant support. Not going to lie, some questions do get skipped out if I don't feel they're relevant or sensible. But the majority of you guys are. You lot know me. I never try and miss you guys out. So yeah, man, I hope you're appreciative of this. Jammy's asked, and he's actually someone I know. Big up Jammy. He said, was Saka's contract more important long term than Aubameyang's? Well, yeah, long term, you know, because what we've tied him down to, he's 22 odd. Let's just say he keeps developing, he becomes an England regular. You know, we have a player that's more marketable, so there's commercial opportunities. We've got someone that's going to be a better player for our team. Obviously, there's resale value, because even Saka now, you know, even if he left for free, it's an L. You know, he's played so well, been in the team week in, week out. You know, he's been in Arsenal's system for a number of years. It wouldn't make sense to kind of betray the trust of Hayland and everyone that's put, and Saka himself, you know, we'd be cheating him as well, because he should be an Arsenal player for a couple of years. And for everybody at Hayland that's been involved in his development and helped structure the framework, this is what we want to do. This is what Hayland, why we was redeveloping Hayland and doing all of these things. So it was imperative. And because for me, you know, if Saka did choose to leave, and Arsenal are in this poor position, if we wasn't as poor as we would as many young players get as frequent opportunities? I don't know. I don't believe so. I do think we'll always play kids, but you get it. You lot know what I'm talking about. If Saka, considering that platform that a young player has playing week in, week out, if Saka did leave, then what message does that send out? There might be nothing wrong with the club or nothing wrong. Saka feels he might have just got an offer from, let's just say, Dortmund or Liverpool, and it's just too good to turn down. But for me, being sinister, what would that signal me? That would tell me, you know, if a young player don't believe there's a future here for our Arsenal for whatever reason, when you've got a young coach in Arteta that's using these players, what does that tell you? Do you get? And what would that tell other young players? Do you get? So it's very important. Obviously, Saka, Aubameyang's a better player. No disrespect to Saka, but long term, keyword long term, of course. Short, medium term, you know, you could even tie Aubameyang into the long term, because obviously he's only here for a couple of years. Well, going to be playing football for a couple of years at a top level because of his age, depending on how he looks after himself. But you lot know the long-term effects of us not getting in the Champions League is starting to really affect us. So, you know, long-term, that can help us. If he helps us get in the Champions League 2 or 3 years in a row, we get extra money. We can buy slightly better targets or more expensive. That helps us renew. And them signings are here longer than Aubameyang ever was. Do you get it? It can help us long-term. But to answer your question without going in depth like I typically do, I believe so. Thomas said, we've played Man City 6 times since Alexis Sanchez's departure, every fixture, and by an aggregate scoreline of 17-1. The last 6 games Alexis featured in for Arsenal against Man City, in just the 2 losses for us, not to mention some notable wins prior to that. Whilst he's not solely responsible for some of the victories we've had over Man City, should we sign him to an FA Cup-based contract, however implausible that may be, or do our current crop of players have what it takes to turn around our recent dismal record against City? Well, I don't think that's a possibility. He actually did alright for Inter Milan. I don't think that's a possibility. But I do share what you mean. Like, Aubameyang's a sick player, but we don't really have that special sort of player sort of thing to make things happen. And to be fair, even if you could, I wouldn't, because as much as I like Alexis, even if it was Alexis Sanchez, the one you're talking about, not the United one, I wouldn't, because of course he would make us better. Of course he'd give us more of a chance, but he wouldn't have played no part to get us to this round in the FA Cup, and I believe they're the man there that have to play it. Do I believe we currently have enough to turn over City? No, honestly, because again, there's a golfing class between the teams, but it's a mentality thing, because I've seen teams below us in the league make City work hard to score less goals, or make City work hard for the 3 points. You know, City have our number, they know how to exploit us. You know, all they need, I don't even think they train for Arsenal. They just say, Kevin, go out there and shoot. So I wouldn't say, no, I wouldn't sign him, man. I wouldn't sign him. And, you know, as for if we have enough to see what it takes, you know, the boys have to prove it. I didn't believe we'd beat Chelsea in the final, and I was the happiest guy at half-time, you know. Saka and Holding pulled it out. Didn't think we'd get past City in the semis that round, assuming that was the same game. And we did it, people. Do you get it? So, yeah, man, there's tough games. But players need to rise up. I just want to see players play with clarity. I want people to behave like this is their last chance at Wembley, to behave like, sad to say, but most people, most journalists probably at that point would have written their match reports and praised City. Relish that. Take it as an offence that they're not giving you a chance, but relish it in that there's no fear then. If everybody expects you to lose, play football like it's your last. That's the problem with Arsenal. There's a lot of psychological issues, and I think as much as we're tough on players and they make mistakes, we'll bash them. Players need to be given the platform and the clarity to not be afraid. And I think I see a lot of players at Arsenal, and that's one reason, going back to the other question Jamie asked, why I rate Saka, because Saka's temperament is very good. So yeah, man, I don't know, Tom. Mutual Boat said, why did we never use Nike typeface in Champions League during all those years at Highbury except in the final season? Wish I had an answer for you. You're gonna have to take that up with marketing, my dude. Danica said, do you want Wenger back? Listen, Wenger's my guy, innit? Wenger's always willing to return in some capacity. I don't think... Listen, there is a complete legitimate reason for him to be in the board and all of these stuff, or some role where he can help Arsenal with the future. I think Arteta would relish it. But I do think we're in both parties, both Arsenal and Wenger, need to make this divorce. Obviously, when you're at Arsenal a number of years like him, you know, when you mention Wenger, you're going to mention Arsenal and vice versa. You know, and he doesn't appear ready to be able to watch us again because of such stuff like this. So I think, you know, unless it's an ambassador sort of role, or some sort of role where he's helping us plan for the future and not necessarily has an opinion but not necessarily affecting on field what Arteta's trying to do or disrupt what Arteta's trying to do, I'll take him back. But if nothing like that, as much as I love Arsene Wenger, he'd have to stay at FIFA. So hopefully I've answered your question. BLM has said, pick 3 teams that you think will get relegated and then pick a player from each of them that you think will improve Arsenal. And why? Jesus, man, you lot come with these mad questions. Alright, cool. 3 teams I think are going to get relegated. Aston Villa, Norwich, Bournemouth. Okay, cool. Bournemouth, Ake, I think he's a decent player. I think that one there is easy enough, my dude. I think he's the only one I would really kill for. I'll take Josh King for the squad, but I'd take, you know, Ake's the real one I'd look at Bournemouth, sorry. Norwich, Ben Godfrey, he might be a bit raw, but, you know, our centre-half list ain't that bad, ain't that good, sorry. So I think Ben Godfrey will be alright. I think Max Aarons, I'm sure you watch football, you know Max Aarons be a ting. Cantwell, I think he'll give us more depth and stuff like that, and he is a good player, so I'd say that. Brendira, don't mind him. Who else is there? I think that's it from Norwich, from me personally, my dude. Jamal Lewis, I wouldn't mind him. From Villa, McGinn, I know he's gone off the ball a bit, but I like McGinn. It would have to be Jack Wilshere, I wish it was Jack Wilshere, Jack Grealish. I wouldn't mind Tyrell Mings in the squad, because again, I've had to drop my expectations on centre-halves because I just want a centre-half, but that'll probably be it. I think, yeah, man, I think these lot would improve us. I think Grealish and Todd Cantwell are not the most creative in the league, but they give us another dimension creatively. Max Aarons is clearly better than Bellerin and would give us resale value. I personally like Ben Godfrey at centre-half, and I think just a couple of teams get polished out of his game, he could potentially, you know, be a Premier League centre-half and potentially go on to England. So yeah, Grealish, because Grealish is, you know, I like how he wants the ball. I don't think there's enough of them man there at Arsenal that want the ball, that want to, you know, be that sort of guy and stuff. So I'd say that, my dude. Jay Poggs says, how good are United, Deluded? Well, I got too many friends that support United to praise you lot. But on a serious note, you got to big up United for, you know, putting a bit of run of form together and, you know, being within touching distance of the top 4. If United don't play Champions League football next season, it's down to them. We all know no football games are easy on paper, but I'd say United have, if you were to ask a lot of teams if they had the more favourable run of fixtures, I'm sure United would take their fixtures. And again, that's no disrespect, because we're at the time of the season where what you think's going to happen and what actually happens are 2 different things. So I'd say that, my guy. Mutual Bolt said best goal at Highbury for me. Thierry Henry against Manchester United, the volley would be it for me against Barthez. Best Highbury save. I can't let you put me on the spot. I'd have to just anything David Seaman's done or anything Jens Lehmann was doing in our run up to the 06 final. The penalty against, I'd say the penalty against Villarreal for me personally, off the top of my head. So that's it, my guy, man. Good questions. Biggest Balls has said, has Bellerin peaked or has he got more to come? You've asked a couple of questions. Bellamy, it's a tough one because I can sit here and say he's peaked, he's past his best, he starts playing well, that's all done. I think for Bellamy, he's stagnated. I don't necessarily think. I still think there's years in the tank. I don't think he's I think injuries have played a part. He's had a couple of terrible injuries, sadly. I think for Bellerin, he's just stagnated. I don't know how much. I'm not saying he doesn't want to improve, but I don't know how much extra work he's doing. Yes, he's coming back from injury, but there's been no real improvement in the final third. So again, it's down to what you're doing extra. The manager can tell you everything, but are you practicing your crossing drills and things after training? He probably is. I can't verify that. I'm not at the training ground, but I'd say stagnation. I think Bellerin's been a bit complacent. He's all for years. It's only really now that he's not really playing right back. For years he was assured to be in that right back spot. So I think maybe a lack of competition. I think a cocktail between lack of competition, complacency, injuries, and just not kicked in. I think it's more stagnating. I think there's more to come. I always take that approach with every player, but it's what he wants to do. Cedric Suarez was talked up by Arteta, and he's only played 10 minutes or so, but he scored. Maitland-Niles doesn't want to be a right back, and both are probably better options in the final third than him. So if I was there, if I was him, I'd take that as an offence and I'd want to improve. So I'd say it's more stagnation. You've said, is it time for Laka to make way? Now I love Lacazette, man. I feel football move as fickle as it is. If you're not doing your job, as long as it's not going over the top, we should critique. And I think Lacazette's career, he's probably questioned himself the most. And 9 goals isn't good enough. And I got a lot of stick for saying Lacazette is a good striker, but he could never be number one because he cannot get 20 league goals. It's as simple as that. He's not the guy for that. He's a squad guy. Probably is time for him to make way because, if it means, I would like Lacazette to stay, but if it means, getting rid of Lacazette off the wage books and balancing it gives Arteta more wiggle room to do other things, then of course. So I'd say potentially yes, because is he playing in form to get a contract renewal and put this club in financial constraints? I think the number one is keeping Aubameyang, and I think Lacazette's future directly impacts that, because if Aubameyang goes, we're not going to sell both of them in the summer, and that wouldn't be the wisest thing. We'd probably have Lacazette and Eddie Nketiah on top of wide options. I can't lie, as much as I like Eddie and I've got time for Lacazette, if Aubameyang leaves, I either want another goal-scoring wide man to come into the team. Let's just say Zaha off the top of my head, or insert any other example. Do you get it? Someone that's going to... Zaha's not the best example, but someone that's going to score goals or do anything, because I don't think Eddie and Laka, they're going to return. Who knows? To be fair, Eddie never started this season. You don't know. His return looks decent now, but I would think we're a bit light up front with Eddie and Lacazette, and obviously Martinelli would probably have to do the left wing thing for me, or ironically Martinelli be the guy who plays through the middle for me, but you get the point, it'd be a bit light. You said, where does Rob Holding figure next season? Well, he's got the next couple of games to show it, because there's question marks over the centre halves. My gut feeling is that Socrates will leave. Holding, I think we'll keep Holding, but he's one of them. If a loan offer comes or a permanent offer for the right terms or the right price, he's allowed to go. I think, David Luiz is staying. I think we should listen to offers for Mustafi, but with his form, I think we might just let him ride out for a season. You obviously have Saliba, hopefully a new centre-half. Holding faces the prospect of being 5th choice or something like that. And obviously when you factor in Mavropanos and players I haven't said, it's different. So we'll have to see. Is Tierney the best left-back we've had since Ashley? Well, off the top of my head, I'd be inclined to say yes. I wasn't the biggest fan of Clichy or Ahmed Traore, so I'm going to say yes. Yeah, so I think that's your questions. Kibbs has said, what made you become an Arsenal fan, and what's the best moment as a fan you've experienced? Well, the best moment's obviously seeing my team win the Premier League, be invincible, and obviously things like that. And I wouldn't say this is the best moment, but obviously it didn't end well, but I'd say one really happy moment, and actually one thing I think of all the time when I'm talking about Arsenal of present day, is 06. I think it would be a good movie. Obviously, the final, many talking points, we obviously didn't get over the line, but every round we wasn't given a chance, and we didn't have no disrespect, we didn't have the best of players, and even that, Thierry Henry wasn't Thierry Henry of a few years ago. He was still a bad boy in 06, don't get it twisted, but it was Thierry Henry of 04 or 02 and things like that. Perez the same. And no one gave us a chance. Like, look at, and we had belief, we had commitment, we had togetherness. You know, from you've got belief, that's it. And that's what I want to see. You know, look at didn't we play like Flamini left back, Senderos, Abue, some mad combinations away at the Bernabeu and did alright. So I'd say that whole run is what gave me the biggest pride, because we're underdogs in 9 times out of 10, and we're doing our thing against Madrid, Juventus, and the rest, Villarreal and the rest of them, my guy. So I'd say that. What made me become an Arsenal fan? Mixture of things, man. Obviously, family, growing up in North London, you know, primary school, it was always, for me, in my reality, I only saw Arsenal or United. There was Liverpool, there was Spurs, you know, I'm not gonna lie, Spurs was more someone's dad was shagging them, and the dad probably said, you know what, yeah, I was done dirty, so I'm gonna do you dirty. But it was always United. For me, it was always Arsenal, United. You had 2-2 Liverpool. Chelsea started coming about in 04 and that, you know, when they made their club, but mainly them. So it was always going to be one of them. And, you know, I had a lot of cousins that supported Arsenal. I had a lot of, my main cousin that I talk about with football was actually a United fan. That was a big reason. And, you know, the biggest reason probably Thierry Henry, man. Like, Thierry Henry, he's like, Thierry Henry, that's mine. I'm 25, so that's my sort of thing. Like, I obviously got to see a bit of Ian Wright and things, but I weren't enjoying football or understanding football to the way I am now when Ian Wright was in his prime. He's one footballer I really wish I got to see live, man, really and truly, because you don't know his story is remarkable. Like, you know, to not be playing professional football for a couple of years and end up Arsenal's second top goal scorer of all time at a time prior to Henry is quality. So I'd say Thierry Henry's the reason, to be fair, on top of the external factors. And I've answered your moments question, I hope, my dude. Sax has said, how do you think Emil Smith-Rowe will do next season? Well, if he stays or goes out on loan, who knows? But I think, you know, I don't know. I don't know until we see what's going to happen. Hopefully he does better, because he's got a bit of experience under his belt at Huddersfield. So we'll have to see. You said, do you think he'll become a starter for Arteta next season? A starter is difficult because he's not in the finished product. I wouldn't rule out a loan again. I wouldn't rule out him being used again. You know, I think he'll be around in pre-season and Arteta will determine it. I think he'll be doing what you're seeing with Joe and Nelson to a degree. They're getting opportunities, and if he wants to take it, it's down to him. Saka got his opportunity. He took it. Martinelli remember Martinelli? There was a point Nelson and Emil, maybe not Emil, but Nelson was ahead of them, man, there, you know. Don't you remember? Joe and Nelson were starting the first couple of games of the season. Martinelli had to wait. Martinelli and to a degree Saka, they were doing up, you know, they were doing that cup competition. And then I think Saka, I don't remember when Saka got his real look in. He done his thing in Europa. I remember us Arsenal fans, we were very angry. He got subbed at half time, was it, against Villa? Because he was one of the best players, but it was a tactical decision. And he took his chance. So it's down to him to take his chance. He got a start against Everton and he showed he wasn't ready this season. It's down to you to take your chance. Eddie's been given chances under Arteta. If he didn't take his chance, his future might lie away from this club. It's down to him if he gets the opportunity to take his chance, and then we can see what he'll do next season, my dude. But he actually played quite well against Birmingham yesterday, based on the highlights. So, you know, every game brings him stronger. We'll have to see. I wouldn't rule out a Premier League team loan. Like, you know, if they stay in the league, I wouldn't have minded him going to a Villa, or for me, Norwich would have been perfect for him this year because of the football they play. But you never know, man. You never know. Who knows? We might even go to Leeds on loan if they get promoted, or West Brom. Even though the last player we loaned to West Brom, they destroyed his confidence, and then he went off to play for Bayern Munich now. So we'll have to see. T24 said, do you think we can be successful with Stan Kroenke still owning us? Well, no, yes and no. I think just because Kroenke owns, listen, I think Kroenke is the one problem at this club, but there is other problems. I don't think everything's been his fault. I do think there has been money. I do think regardless of Kroenke, there's been times we haven't spent well or made the right collective decisions in all aspects to better our club. I think the mentality comes down to him, but there's been several things we could have done better. Like, for years, we just needed a midfielder. We needed this, you know, that year against Leicester, we bottled the league along with Spurs. I do think we can. Success is subjective. We could definitely do a bit better regardless of who it is. But, like, a real football powerhouse, like someone that's the envy of the world and stuff like that, no, I don't think we can do that with him. Alfred said, do you think Memphis Depay will improve our attacking play, and where would you play him? I'd probably play him left wing, but he probably prefers to play inside in like a false 9 role, or like behind the striker, if you had to ask him now, just based on what I'm seeing at Lyon. If he doesn't necessarily stay out there, the positions he takes up, you know. And he'll make some good videos. You know, if Aubameyang leaves, we need someone else with the drip. Jordan has said, what is Saka's best position for Arsenal? Brother, that Saka don't know, man. He confuses the thing. I personally think he's a winger, left or right wing. You know, since he's been playing midfield, you can't rule out a future there. And obviously, we've seen him play solid at fullback. The next couple of years will decide that. And, you know, I think he could have a future in all of them. But for me right now, today, 2020, July the 2nd, I think he's a left and right winger. But things can change because he's been playing quite well anywhere. Just as long as he stays. Good question, dude. Rashi has said, who's getting relegated? Kind of answered that already. But, you know, I believe Bournemouth, Villa and Norwich. Norwich the definite top 4 this season. It's a shaky one because I would have said Leicester and Spurs a couple of months ago, or even Leicester and Chelsea. It's a tough one. I can't really predict it, man. I think United are going to sneak in there. I think third or fourth are up for grabs. I think United are going to sneak in there. I don't know, man. I think it's, you know, if Chelsea want it, they can get it. If Wolves want it, they can get it. If Leicester want to remain there, they can get it. You know, if United want it or Chelsea can get it. There's about 4 teams fighting for 2 spots. I think United are actually going to do it. I think United and Chelsea. I hope Leicester still do it. I still think Leicester to a degree, but I just feel Chelsea are going to get over the line. I just feel United, this feel-good factor and the way they played against Brighton, you know, this could all change in the week, but I didn't think they'll do it, but I think they can do it. So I'd say that, but it all changes, man. A has said 2 players you would realistically buy in the summer. Szoboszlai of Salzburg, and Yari Vestashin, I can never say his name, the young 18-year-old, he's Belgium and he plays for Anderlecht in the creative midfield role, although he can be shoehorned out wide. SP, that's a bit of a mad name there, my dog, Madoni, I don't know what that name is, forgive me, your Twitter handle, but you said best pairing for Saliba come next season. Well, out of existing pairings, you know, up until the City game, I would have said it probably got to be a Saliba and David Luiz thing. You know, right now, if Saliba was to come today, it'd probably be Saliba and Mustafi. Mustafi on current form. For me, I believe it should be a new centre-half, but it is what it is in that regards, my guy. You said realistic summer pickups. I don't know, I'm not a transfer man, but I would love a Szoboszlai, a Yari Vestashin, the Sassy, if there's money for Upamecano. There's been too much links not to think it's not plausible for Arsenal to get Partey. People like this Sangare of Toulouse. Toulouse got a couple of players we could look at, to be fair with you. So I'd say that, if anything. And I think with that ends all the questions asked of myself via Twitter. So big up yourselves, people, each and every time for that one. So yeah, let's go with it. We've got 26 questions. Rashana said, why after every win everyone forgets what sort of state the club is in? We are actually going down as a club in every aspect. I can't speak for anyone you know or anyone you see in your reality, but the people I speak to, you know, I think they're just happy to see a win, because at football base level we're just happy to win again. I think people can comprehend that and also comprehend the problem at our club. I don't think many people think things are going to change according to individual result, but I can't tell you nothing. Omar said, do you think Maitland-Niles would be a good understudy for Cedric? I think Maitland-Niles should be trying to lock down the fullback role, regardless of if he wants to play in midfield, because it improves you, you know. If you want to play midfield, lock down the right back role. Keep saying to Arteta, yo, I'm a midfielder, but man can do this thing, and that will make him more versatile with things, you know, more game time. Ox isn't exactly a fullback, but Ox can fill in. Ox is a central midfielder and he can play out wide and stuff, but Ox is a centre mid, can fill in that fullback if need be. That should be Maitland-Niles' viewpoint. You know what, let me lock it down, it improves my education of football, but I want to be a midfielder. I do think he'd make a good fullback. I do think obviously he could learn more from Cedric than he could from Bellerin personally. But yeah, man, it's all down to Maitland if he wants to do that. Emmanuel said, DG, I hope quarantine's treating you well. Do you think that having experience is a bit overrated? I've seen a lot of teams do well without it, like Ajax in the UCL and England at the World Cup. Define's doing well, because England, we did do okay, but pushing it a bit. Ajax, experience is important, because look at how they went out. Look at the manner in which they went out to Spurs. They didn't take their chances. They didn't defend properly and things like that. I wouldn't say it's overrated. I think it's overstated. I don't think experience necessarily comes with age. I think you look at, I'd describe Saka and Guendouzi as poor, but as experienced players within this Arsenal team. They're old enough. They're not finished articles. They haven't played mad games, but Saka's played enough games to know what he's doing right and wrong, what he can improve in. Guendouzi the same, to know what comes with winning and losing. They're not necessarily the captains or whatever, but I don't think experience necessarily, just because someone's got age doesn't mean they've got experience, even though they have, sort of thing. I think you can be a very young, experienced player and be street smart. So I wouldn't say it's overrated. I say it's overstated, my guy. Love for the question though. Jonathan has said, what about our loan players like Osei Tutu, Mavropanos, Olayinka? Well, Olayinka's future probably lies away from Arsenal purely because of his age. The same goes for Ben Shave, even though I love to be wrong because from Halen. Osei Tutu, you know, he's had a positive end to the season, a good season, and a positive end to the season in Germany with Bushum, you know, playing in that right wing role. You know, for him, I think he deserves the opportunity to at least show Arteta what he's made of, but you've got to look at the pathway. Is he going to make it here right wing? He might be a household name as a right winger one day, but right now I can't see him as a better option or a more viable option than some of them. At fullback, he should be given a chance, but again, you've just brought in Cedric Suarez, you've got Hector Bellerin, and Maitland-Niles can be used there. Now, Bellerin and Maitland-Niles have been linked with moves away. Maitland-Niles has been linked to playing in midfield, so things can open up, but potentially lie away from this club. Mavropanos, again, I think Arteta come run the rule over him, see what happens. I think his future depends a lot on what happens with, if something happens with David Luiz, who's just signed a new deal, so unlikely, Socrates or Mustafi. If that's not the case, then I think we should try and loan him out to another team in Germany, preferably in the German First Division or in the Premier League, and let him, you know, keep developing. And then next season, if he can be brought in, full cool. If not, if we can make a profit on him, cool. Because that's another thing we got to start doing. We got to start bringing in young players and players that bewilders fans, but we've made a profit. We make profit on players that ain't even played or not gonna make it and things like that. Wyatt said, hey DG, top Premier League clubs are after Angel Gomes. Should Arsenal go for him, and what do you think of him as a player? Thank you, take care. I would go for him, but I would like to go for other targets. I think he's a very good player, you know, good balance, good eye for goal, good passer. Just needs that experience, just needs to simply play football. I'm not too sure on if Man United will be owed compensation because of his age and the fact that they offered him a new deal. If it is compensation, then you can probably assume that United will be due a pretty penny, which might be too expensive for Arsenal. But I think he's a decent player, man. It's just down to him to prove how good he is. I think, yeah, man, I don't see why he couldn't get a Premier League team, but I think more important for him, it's important to make sure he's got the right club. Where if you're not, this is the thing, a lot of people see people leave and see that they've gone to another team. Even Sandro, people say, why did he go to Dortmund? He's not playing. There was a pathway, there was a plan and a pathway, you know. Remember Sandro had to play for under-19s in the second division for a piece and train with the first team. Then he got his chance. So if there's a thing where Gomes can find somewhere where if he plays straight away, great. If he finds somewhere where there's a pathway, is more important. Like, look at Tariq Lamptey. He's not playing week in, week out for Brighton, but he deems there's more of a pathway there than at Chelsea, where he'd have Reece James, currently Azpilicueta. I could be missing somebody else out. Good question. WWE Boss has said, if you had sons in the future, would you want them to play football professionally? Of course, for Arsenal, and so I can retire early. You don't know, of course. Samuel Gray said, where do you see Reece Nelson breaking into the starting lineup in the future? Well, the first thing he needs to do is get his confidence up, get his decision making up, and refine his talent. But if he is going to break through, I'd say it's across any of the three positions before you talk about the striker. I think he could be a good on the right wing. I think in time he can learn to play on the left. I think he's actually quite good in the 10 position, really and truly, and he does well in that role. So you never know, Pete. You really never know. I'd say if it was me, I'd say he's either flank, but you don't know, man. Manu has said, DG, gotta say you are improving your green screen skills and video quality. Thank you very much. You said, I have an unpopular opinion. I don't think we should go for Partey at all. He is what we need at core, but we should not sign him. Once it's time to renew his contract, we'll have minimal resale value. Do you think Tyrell has what it takes to go a full season? Well, I hear what you're saying about resale value, but almost as important as resale value, if signing Partey can give us our current, can help us achieve something, it is. Because look at Aubameyang. Because of his contract, because of his age, we're going to make a loss. But, you know, it makes sense to keep him. He has no real resale value to us right now. Or if he was to sign a new 2-3 year deal, he'd have no resale value. But he could help us with our goal. So I see where you're going, my guy. So, yeah, in short, I do think Tyrell can go a full season. You've also said should we be looking at Cantwell? I would like to go for Cantwell at an affordable fee. I think he'd give us some good depth. I think he knows about the club. I think he's what we look for in a player in that sort of position. He might not be the guy to get 20 assists and make the difference, but I think we need to improve the depth of our squad. So depending on the price, be decent. Casey has said dream lineup for next season, and come on, be realistic about transfers. I don't know for transfers. Like I don't know for transfers. I don't know for lineup next year until I see what our squad looks like. But you know, if you're asking me the members of today's squad that if I was manager, I'd feature in, you know, Tyrell would have an assurance of a place under me. Leno, Aubameyang, Martinelli, Bukayo Saka, they do Pepe, just about, you know, these 5 would be the assurances. People I'd look to build with and use next season would be the Pepes, the Nelsons. If I haven't, sorry, I forgot to say Martinelli to the definite. But like I said, the Pepes, the Nelsons, Guendouzi's, if he stays, the Maitland-Niles. But the people I said at the start would be who I'm building the team around. So I can't answer that question. But yeah, Abiko said, other than football music, what do you enjoy in your free time? Sleep, current events, you know, ways to diversify, you know, finances and build for financial freedom, stuff like that. Really, I like to read. Yeah, man, just a chill guy. I like to watch documentaries. Just a chill guy. I like to watch a lot about stocks and recession crashes and things like that. So I'd say, yeah, just a normal guy, man. Bowie the Cat said, hope you and your family are well and safe. Thank you, and I'd like to return the same to you. Said, what tactics would you deploy against Manchester City to get a result against them? Well, you know, that's one for the tactical reviews. But if this 3 at the back team keeps working, then I might run with 3 at the back, to be fair with you. This 3-4-3 if it keeps banging for us, really and truly. But I'll review that game nearer the time. There's not much we can personally do this season against Man City. Samuel Gray said, do you think Jackal could turn into our version of Jordan Hansen? What I mean is by turning around his downfalls at the Emirates, by being a leader and being a force off the bench. I don't know. I think Jackal can be someone that can be used for Arteta. I like Xhaka's mentality. I like it. So if what you mean is if he could be a vocal sort of leader for us, of course, but we're going to need more than that. So I guess so, yeah, man. Mr. Adlib said, based on this season's numbers, would you take Santi Cazorla back so that he can fulfill his dream and end his career at the Emirates, or do you feel that ship has sailed? Well, from a sentiment point of view, of course, man, it looks silly to Santi to be gone. Santi's better than half these players fully fit. You know, he's doing well. He's starred against even Barca and Madrid. He's been involved in a lot of goals and assists in terms of added contribution. He's playing quite well. You know, they said he wouldn't be able to walk again, so to see him play football is a miracle. On current form, of course he should be in this team. Of course, it looks stupid to not have renewed his deal. But hindsight's a wonderful thing. At the time, you know, he was having an injury. There was no way of knowing what was going through it and what was going to happen. So I don't begrudge the club. I begrudge the club a lot for stuff they do, but I won't begrudge the club for that one necessarily, because they don't know. From a sentiment point of view, purely sentiment, of course it makes sense. Purely, you know, just looking at it away from my love and admiration for Santi, and I believe he should have that. There's no logical reason for it. Like there's nothing. Like the game can't be run on sympathy, and I think for years Arsenal were run on sympathy and sentiment. I think the ship has sailed, my guy. If you know, by all means, run it in pre-season, run a little tournament to give Santi a send off, but not while the season's going on, really. And you know, if he wants to play football for a year, it could be an option, but I don't think we should really. I wouldn't be against it, but I don't necessarily think it'd be the wisest decision to give him a new deal. Sam Allardyce said, what's your expectation next season? Without knowing much, hopefully a better sustained fight for the top 4 positions. Jackal said, I know that you speak about pathways among factors, but why do you think Arsenal are struggling to keep young players? Every club is struggling to keep young players. You can't keep them all. Like I said in the previous video, you've got to win the war, you've got to lose the battle. For every Saka that's come through, we've lost a Gnabry, we've lost a Moose. And now I'm not saying we can't review our practices, because by Arsenal standards, we're starting to make idiotic decisions, but we will lose players. In fact, like there will be players that have left. People are crying over Xavi Amici, myself included, you know, and now it's forgotten about because of Martinelli and Saka. So we will lose players, we will keep losing players, but it's about having a pathway, and every pathway is different, you know. Eddie Nketiah's pathway might be here at Arsenal, but for Balogun to reach the next level, he might have to go somewhere else. Everyone's pathway is different, everybody's journey is different. So what works for one man might not be the same for the other. Philip has said, do you think Arteta will give the under-20s more game time in the Cups next season? Potentially, yeah, he's shown he'll give opportunities. So yeah, why would, if you train and play well, you might get a chance. One has said, if we do sign Partey, who would you buy to play him alongside? Szoboszlai would be it for me, number 1 target. You said, who would you buy to play alongside Saliba? I would love Upamecano, I would love Disasi, you know. I would love Paul Torres of Villarreal, but we can't get all of these targets. Been doing some research on that Fuchs brother in Brazil. He looks alright based on what I'm able to see. You know, I like Gabriel of Lille. You know, the typical names we've been linked with and the ones on the block that have been on the block or around the block, to be fair with you. Wouldn't mind Ben Godfrey of Norwich or a couple of other new players if we're going to go down the leagues. Thanks for your kind words as well, 1-1. DS has said, why don't we see Bellerin overlap Pepe and not attack the final third more often? I think it's a reluctance from Bellerin. I don't know if we've heard he's playing with injuries, but at this time he's playing week in, week out. If he is playing with an injury, you know, he needs to be taken out the firing line so he can't get critiqued. Because I have admiration of you playing through the pain barrier, but at this point now, if you've been medically signed off to play, how much does it wash? Because you're now able to contribute. I don't know, man. I don't know. I know Arteta tells one of our fullbacks to stay narrow, but too many times Bellerin's not really shown a proactiveness to just pass the ball forward. At times he doesn't really want to overlap. He's a bit too narrow. I think Arteta's telling him all of these things, but I don't know. It's something for Bellerin to answer, really. I don't know why he doesn't overlap, and you know, his injuries might have taken a lot out of his game, but I don't know. That's something I would like to know the answer to, my guy, man. Because it's no coincidence that Maitland-Niles, for all his faults, started going forward and making an option. Ironically, Pepe has a better game. Pepe cuts in off the right-hand side, using his fullback as a decoy to shoot, and he scores. Is it amazing? It's not rocket science. So DS, I would love to know myself. This ties me up for the next question. It's G-Med has said, what did you make of Bellerin's performance in the Norwich game? I kept backing him, but what I saw the past 2 games, he's done, bro. I like Bellerin. I'll always defend Bellerin. I think I've got a lot of admiration for Bellerin on and off the field, but I have more admiration for my football club, and I like to keep things trill, really. He's not playing well enough. I don't think he was bad against Norwich. I think it was a 5 out of 10. One thing I liked about him, ironically, you know, he actually stayed high and wide like Tierney, and just from making that run, you see how the ball was going to him. You see how it was giving Norwich options because Ceballos was continuously playing it. Obviously, I think the very thing I've accused him for against Norwich, he was doing it. Was getting into the final third, trying to overlap. The problem is, what rare times he does it, the end product isn't there. Like, the crossing ain't there. The decision-making ain't there. He's not getting his head up. He's overhitting it when he should be underhitting it. He's underhitting it when he should be overhitting it. You know, he's not, you know, at a time, Bellerin used to be like another winger, man. I'm sure, did he score against Liverpool one time? I don't know if it was Liverpool, but he scored a banger with his left foot against someone once, people. And that's something for Bellerin to get back, man. And you know what? He has shown his overlap. Didn't he do alright against Chelsea at the Bridge? So I don't know what it is with Bellerin. Is it mental or not? Tumelo has said, do you think we should award Saka the number 7 shirt if he already wears 77? If he wants to make the number 77 shirt iconic, do your thing. But I do believe, you know, between the 7 and the 9 shirt, Martinelli's got to grab one of them. Saka, by the same logic's got to grab the 7, I guess. Wouldn't mind giving it to Nelson if he fixed up, but he's not moving like he wants that 7 shirt right now. Mr. Aaron has said, what kind of mindset do you think the fans should have moving forward? Should we view ourselves as a top team or come to grips with the fact that we are a mid-table team? Thanks. Both of them. You know, we're still a big club, we're still Arsenal, but don't let perception and reality twang you and F you up, you know. Realise the problem that is at this club, the financial issues we're going through, and just where we are as a club. You can be frustrated at the board and things like that, but just remember where we are at this club. Still remember what we was, still hold that in your heart, but remember where it is now, because I do think fans are right to be angry half the time, but what I also do believe is a lot of anger comes from failing to accept where we are. I'm not saying accept it, I don't want to accept what we're doing, but, you know, at one point we have to stop. At some point the team's making us mad, but we're allowing it to mash up our days and stuff, and we've got to probably just temper our expectations, man. I think the most I personally hope for is a top 4 shout next season. We'll have to see. You bring us better players, you show Arteta shows what he can do, things can change. Teacher Blacks has said, yo DG, big up yourself, thank you very much for your kind words. You said, what do you think about Luiz getting an extension? Well, I'm not going to sit here and look like a hypocrite. Prior to the City game, you know, many of us would say, you know, the age, the finances don't make sense. But we were calm with it because, you know, Luiz is Luiz, but he was moving all right. The City game, myself included, flipped a lot of our heads and we're saying, nah, you know what? So to see him get a new deal, it don't make sense to me really, but it makes sense in that, you know, Saka's even spoken about, he's a big influencer with the young players, and that's one thing I give him. Going into the Emirates and watching, he does look like a big player for the young players and stuff like that, and a big character, you know. Obviously, if Arteta believes it's his guy in it, and we'll have to see, and it's down to him to back it. So I don't think he should have got an extension, but really and truly, even prior to the City game, he kind of deserved it on current form. We were screaming he's our best centre-half on current form. It was either him or Mustafi. More people are going towards Luiz. So yeah, man, and you've also said, and what do you think the job you said, what do you think the Arsenal job are making? And you said, what do you think the Arsenal board are making the job more difficult for Arteta? Apologies if I said that wrong. They are going to make it more difficult if they don't back him, and it doesn't mean back him with 300 million on players. We'd all love it. Go and get in the right players. Go and make sure when it comes to contracts, you know, Aubameyang and Saka, thank God he signed that deal. Aubameyang, it is what it is. Teams will always players will run down contracts. But it just feels like Arsenal, every year there's something. There's Alexis and Ozil, and there's Ramsey, the contracts. Because this is one, the minute you pattern up the contracts and pattern up these things, Arteta's not asked about it on the match day, in the press conferences. Apologies for the rain, people. 1 second. Because that's going to distract me. Apologies. Let me sit back down. But like I was saying, yeah, dealing with contracts, bringing in the right players. Apologies, coming down on madness. Doing all of these right things because he's just a head coach. You need to make his job as easy as possible. As much as he can focus purely on sporting things, like on the field matters, it is what it is. You know, we shouldn't. He's a manager and we're a football team. These things are always going to happen. But every day he's asked about something that's really not his job. He's a head coach. So I'd say that, man. Backing him in the market, having learning lessons from hindsight, real foresight. Okay, there's this player at Haaland. Boom, boom, boom. This is our plan for him. You know, Aubameyang, he signed. Let's just say he signed this new deal. Okay, boom, Aubameyang signed it. He's not going to be here for longer than a year, anything from a year to 3. Let's go and identify that long-term striker. Okay, the contracts until 2021 got a year to run, but what are we looking at for 2022? Whose contracts are up in 2023? I think that's Maitland now. Not Maitland. I think it could be Maitland, but I think it's definitely Bellerin and Nelson. Okay, what are we trying to do with them long-term going forward? You get it? Just patterning up, really. Just patterning up. Just patterning up, simple as, man. Do you think, I'm not saying you do, but do you think Jurgen Klopp is the one responsible for selling Jordan Hansen for that money, or Solanke for that money, or whatever? Do you get it? The club are trying to raise funds. Obviously, Coutinho's fees, but Liverpool are out there doing as much as they can for Klopp just to focus on on-field matters. Do you get it? So we'll see what happens, man. Faris has said, do you think Arsenal are in the better side of the Mkhitaryan deal to save up wages, or the losing side? Well, maybe we've forfeited 10 million, but, you know, the wages are free. A player that, you know, is underwhelmed is no longer on the books, and it gives us more money, resources, I guess, to manoeuvre elsewhere. So, yeah, man, I think we've got the better end of the deal in that it's put to bed. Grandad Trotter said opinions on VAR. It can be used for good stuff, but it just seems like they're freestyling, and I think it's not making no sense. Like I'm pretty sure you watched the West Ham game. What can Antonio do with his head? Can he pull it off? Like, what do you want a man to do? So it's just freestyling. Oh, last question, rather diplomatic. SK said, hope you're well, DG. Why do black players always pledge allegiance to these European countries? It's weird that you're playing for a country who doesn't really respect your colour. 2, look at France. Apart from Giroud and a few players, that team was full of players of African descent. What do you think will need to happen for black players to actually start pledging and playing allegiance to their clubs, well, to their countries of origin? Well, there's many factors. There's corruption in all leagues, people. But let's be honest, in typically third world countries, it's like crabs in a barrel sort of corruption. You know, they'll kind of be the boards and the presidents will shortchange and things. So I'd say that needs to change. I think in home countries, like speaking for a lot of Caribbean and the only African countries I can speak of, the infrastructure isn't the best in terms of coaching. The infrastructure in the case of the FA and how the FAs carry on, there's too much corruption within these high-ranking individuals. Obviously, as fickle as it is, you do that, you improve the coaching, you do these things. Long term, you're going to improve the caliber of player, which will improve your catchment area of players you can use. That might entice the European counterparts or the young Jamaican or Nigerian or Ghanaian man that's born in England to go and play for their counterparts. So they need to see it's a genuine. Look at Nigeria; it looks like a genuine project, but still, it seems like people are picking these countries as second choices. Do you get it? So I don't know. I'd say it's as fickle as it is. They think they do have more of a chance of winning major stuff within it. Like you look at France, you know, there's players there probably from Congo, many different African countries. There's a couple players within that team of many different French-speaking parts of the Caribbean. If they all individually played for those nations, would they be able to play at World Cups? Would they actually have a team? You know, you'd be surprised how many people play for their countries and they actually have to deal with things that are not about football. Like, I'm not going to reveal the nations and stuff, but there's countries where players have gone to play for international duty. They've they've got to the hotel and seen that the hotel's not been booked because that president has swindled the peas. So until, you know, proper infrastructure, the calibre of players, as a result of the coaching and infrastructure, I don't really see much changing. And just the mindset, really, because people are always going to pick these teams first. I don't really have the answer, my guy, but I really rate that question. I think it was a good question. On that note, though, it's been a good Q&A, man, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. But for now, people, DG.